Okay, settle in, because we are plunging into one of those mysteries that just, well, it really sticks with you. You shared the stack of sources, articles, reports, notes,
A big stack.
and our goal, our mission here is to take all that information, sift through it, and distill it down. What are the core facts? What jumps out as surprising? What makes this case so incredibly baffling?
And baffling really is the word. We're looking at a cold case from Taiwan back in 2008. It involves a mother, she was 37, and her little girl, just 4 years old. They vanished.
But it's the how they vanished. That's
Yeah.
what makes it so unique, isn't it? They walk into an elevator and are simply never seen again.
Yeah, gone.
What really sets this whole thing apart, I think, is the last piece of visual evidence. We actually have that surveillance footage from inside the elevator. It shows them doing something.
Well, but
It's just utterly strange, deliberate too, and completely unexpected, just moments before they disappear.
it really challenges our basic understanding of how people can just cease to exist,
Yeah.
So this deep dive, it's about trying to unpack the layers of this mystery, the circumstances leading up to it, those bizarre actions in the elevator,
A lack of any trace.
the complete lack of any trace, yeah, and the sort of cultural echoes it still creates today. So get ready, because we're going to confront a truly, truly enduring puzzle here.
So, where do we even begin with something like this? The material you shared, it starts by painting this picture of a really difficult situation, long before they ever got near that building.
Absolutely. It introduces us to the mother, Lou, and her young daughter.
Right.
And the reports, they're pretty clear. Lou was in a long, very unhappy marriage. There were significant issues.
Right.
The sources specifically detail the husband, Deng's, reported alcoholism and also domestic violence. So this wasn't some sudden crisis that just blew up. It'd been building for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so the night they actually disappear, January 20th, 2008, there's a heated argument. That seems to be the immediate trigger for Lou leaving the house. But almost right away, her actions seem kind of counterintuitive if she was just trying to get to safety.
Exactly. That's the weird part. She takes only the youngest daughter with her. The sources point out she sent her 2 older children to her own mother's home.
Which seems like the logical place, right?
Yeah.
Safe harbor you'd expect her to go to herself.
You'd think so.
Mm.
But she didn't go there. And this is critical. She leaves without any of the essentials, things you'd grab even if you were just stepping out for a bit, let alone leaving for good. No wallet, no ID, no bank cards,
No phone?
no phone. Wow.
It's almost like she was deliberately leaving her worldly ties behind, you know?
And then there's the husband's behavior afterwards. The reports describe it as, well, notable is putting it mildly. According to these sources, Zheng showed this really striking lack of concern right from the start, and apparently for years after. He reportedly didn't cooperate much with the police, often intoxicated when they questioned him, the reports say.
Right. And investigators specifically noted he just didn't seem that eager to find them. What are we even supposed to make of that?
Well, it speaks volumes, doesn't it, about the breakdown in that family dynamic, the likely emotional distance, maybe even antagonism. Now, the sources are careful. They don't directly implicate him in the disappearance from the building.
No, okay.
But his attitude, it adds this significant kind of troubling layer to the whole backstory. It really underscores the desperate situation Lou might have been fleeing, even if his actions don't explain the vanishing act itself.
It just makes you ask, why walk out with literally nothing, and why not go straight to the one place you know is safe, where your other kids already are? That decision alone, right at the beginning, seems so different from the typical narrative of someone fleeing domestic violence to find shelter.
So instead of going to her mother's, their path takes them somewhere else, about 7 kilometers away, riding Lou's scooter. They head to this place called the Yuanlin Financial Building.
Okay, they arrive there around 8:40 p.m. She parks the scooter right out front. Seems normal enough so far.
But here's one of those little details from the reports that just kind of grabs you. When they found the scooter, days later, the keys were still in the ignition.
Still in it.
Yeah. What does that signal? Was it just extreme urgency? Panic so bad she forgot something so basic?
Or maybe she had no intention of coming back for it.
Could be. Or just a sign of her state of mind. Definitely not calm, planned thinking.
And the building itself, the material describes it as just a typical mixed-use place, right? Commercial, some residential units.
That's right. And we do have an account from the building manager. He said Lou spoke to him briefly.
Oh, what did she say?
She mentioned going upstairs to visit a friend. But he specifically noted she seemed flustered, agitated.
Which brings us right to the core of this thing, the really, really bizarre part, the elevator footage. Around 8:47 p.m., they step into the lift.
Okay, and the elevator goes up all the way to the 11th floor, which is the top floor of that building.
And inside, captured clearly on the security camera, Liu starts doing this sequence of actions, and they seem incredibly deliberate.
Yeah, not random at all.
First, she takes off her own red jacket. Then she takes off her daughter's pink jacket. And then they both take off their shoes or slippers. And she doesn't just drop them. She carefully places all these items neatly in the corner of the elevator car.
Why? Why would anyone do that?
Exactly. Especially in January. In Taiwan, it's cold then. This isn't like some panicked, flailing, tearing clothes off. It looks intentional, methodical almost. What possible reason could there be for stripping off warm clothing and shoes like that?
Well, this is where the sources start getting into interpretation, trying to connect it to potential cultural meanings or symbolic acts.
Okay.
There's speculation linking this behavior to certain Taiwanese folk beliefs, ideas about death, spirits, or maybe shedding worldly ties. One specific idea mentioned is about removing red clothing, that it might be done to avoid becoming a vengeful spirit after death, because red is sometimes associated with strong energy or even anger.
Wow, okay. That adds this whole other layer, doesn't it? Kind of a chilling possibility and brings in the cultural context. And watching the video, the reports really emphasize how calm it looks, step by step.
Right. It feels less like chaos and more like some kind of ritualistic performance.
Yeah.
It wasn't a struggle, not a tearing off of clothes. It was deliberate. And then there's the destination with the 11th floor, the top floor.
Yeah.
That's another puzzle piece.
Why there? Was she trying to get to the roof? I mean, the police did search the rooftop thoroughly. Or maybe she thought it was the most private floor. The reports mention the 11th floor had, like, a Buddhist hall and also an HR agency.
An HR agency.
Huh. So were they maybe seeking help there? A place to stay? Guidance? Who knows? But those actions inside the elevator, they're the most visible part of this, and yet the most confounding.
So they get out of the elevator on the 11th floor. The footage shows them walking toward the stairwell entrance. And then nothing. Silence. They're just gone. Poof. And the next morning, the building manager finds the clothes and shoes just sitting there, abandoned in the elevator. He calls the police.
And what followed, according to all the reports we have, was an incredibly thorough search. I mean, police apparently scoured that building, floor by floor, unit by unit.
Everything. They searched the rooftop. They checked water tanks, pipe ducts, electrical rooms. Every conceivable hiding spot, even the alleys around the building.
And the result?
Absolute zero. Not a single sign of them. No physical evidence at all beyond those items left in the elevator.
So initial theories, like maybe suicide by jumping from the roof?
They did. But the material notes there was just no evidence of a fall found anywhere.
Yeah.
And the building's structure itself apparently made it highly unlikely they could jump and land somewhere without being noticed or reach another building without leaving some trace.
It's this complete lack of any trace that makes it seem, well, impossible on the surface. How do two people, a mother and a small child, just vanish from what looks like a contained building with surveillance?
But, and this is important, the reports also give us crucial context about the surveillance back then. It wasn't like today, with cameras absolutely everywhere.
Right, this was 2008.
Exactly. There were significant blind spots, especially, they note, within the stairwells. And not every single floor even had cameras monitoring it.
Okay, that's a key insight. So acknowledging those limitations, does the fact that there were these documented blind spots actually make a seemingly impossible vanishing act maybe a little more understandable?
It kind of does, yeah. Could they have maybe used their knowledge of the building's layout? Or maybe got lucky? Or perhaps even had external help to slip through those unmonitored areas?
And the lack of any other forensic evidence is also really strange, isn't it? No hair, no fibers, not even blood found anywhere else inside the building away from the elevator.
Right. That leans away from a scenario where they remained hidden within the structure for very long, if at all, after leaving that 11th floor elevator.
This case, I mean, right from 2008, it caused a huge public shock in Taiwan, especially locally. That strange elevator footage, the sheer mystery of it all, it dominated the media coverage. Often framed as just completely unexplained, even supernatural sometimes.
And then years later, especially after the Elisa Lam case got so much attention in the U.S., remember that one? Young woman, strange elevator behavior, found later in a hotel water tank.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very high profile.
Well, the Changhua case then picked up this label, the Taiwanese Elisa Lam.
That comparison. It's interesting, but you have to be careful with it. Yeah, I mean, it definitely brought renewed international eyes to the Changhua case, which is good in a way.
True.
But did it also maybe narrow the focus too much? Because the Lam case did end with a body being found inside the building. Did that comparison maybe lead people, especially online speculators, to focus too heavily on finding a body inside the financial building, despite those initial, very thorough searches finding absolutely nothing?
That's a really good point. The key difference is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Elisa Lam was found. Lou and her daughter remain missing.
Yeah.
The outcomes are fundamentally different, so the comparison only goes so far,
It highlights the weird elevator behavior, but misses the main point of Changhua.
which is the absolute enduring disappearance.
Yeah. And speaking of enduring, online communities, especially on big Taiwanese forums like PTT, they've kept this case alive for, what, over 16 years now?
PTT is huge in Taiwan, right? Like a massive online bulletin board.
Exactly. And these online detectives, they've proposed just countless theories over the years. Everything from, like you said, supernatural stuff, spirits, another dimension, to more practical ideas about hidden rooms, secret passages.
And of course, endless discussion about the red clothing, the folk beliefs.
Right. It makes you think, how does that constant online chatter shape the narrative of a cold case? It keeps it in the public eye long after official leads maybe dry up. And it's so important, like you said earlier, not to lose sight of the tragedy at the heart of this domestic violence. The mystery is what grabs us, but the roots seem to go back to the severe consequences of abuse and the potentially desperate measures someone might feel forced to take.
And it also quietly highlights that broader issue of missing persons in Taiwan. The sources mention tens of thousands are reported missing every year. Many are found, thankfully, but a significant number just remain unaccounted for.
So the mystery gets the headlines, but it's sitting on top of a really serious ongoing social problem.
So if we're trying to pull out the core insights from all this material, what really makes this case stand out, for me, it's got to be that specific, observable, almost ritual-like behavior in the elevator. That act, caught on camera, it adds this unique psychological, maybe even cultural complexity that you just don't see in most missing person cases.
Definitely. And the other key insight, maybe the most chilling one, is just the stark fact of their erased lives for the past 16 years. According to the reports, there has been absolutely zero trace of them in any official system.
Nothing.
Nothing. No health insurance claims, no banking activity. The child who'd be, around 20 now, no education records, no healthcare records, just gone from the grid.
And that complete lack of any trace, that's powerful evidence in itself, isn't it? I mean, theoretically, sure, they could be living totally off-grid, new identities.
But how realistic is that for a mother and a young child?
The sources point out how incredibly difficult that would be, especially if the child gets older, needs schooling, ID, healthcare. You inevitably interact with systems.
The reports even bring up another case from Changhua, also in 2008, the Lin case, they call it, where a mother did successfully hide her daughter from an ex-husband for 12 years.
Oh, interesting.
But even that situation left traces. The mother had to use, self-paid medical care. The daughter apparently suffered. She was underweight, didn't go to school, and they were eventually found years later just because the mother got recognized while shopping or something mundane like that.
Wow. So the Lin case shows it's possible to hide for a long time.
But it leaves a trail. Maybe faint, maybe unconventional, but a trail. The Liu case, with its complete, utter lack of any trace for 16 years, despite all the attention and searches, it makes survival without discovery seem, profoundly unlikely.
That contrast is a really critical insight, I think. It strongly suggests their fate probably involves them being deceased, with their remains just undiscovered or maybe unidentifiable somewhere.
And the husband. His lack of cooperation, it cast a shadow for so long. And now, we also know from the sources he recently passed away, late 2023.
Oh, really? How?
Apparently an accidental fall while he was fixing a water tank at home.
His death. It adds another layer of finality, I guess, but what does it mean for the case? Some might feel, a key potential source of information, however unhelpful he was, is gone forever.
While others, including police quoted in the reports, seem to feel his previous lack of cooperation means his death doesn't really change the prospects much. Solving it after 16 years is just incredibly challenging either way. The sources also mention that legally, After being missing for more than 10 years, both Lu and her daughter have been declared legally dead.
Right, for practical matters.
Exactly. It provides necessary legal closure for the family inheritance, things like that. But it really highlights that gap, doesn't it, between the legal system needing resolution and the factual mystery remaining completely unsolved. Legal closure isn't the same as knowing what actually happened.
Not at all. And the reality of tackling a cold case like this after 16 years, it's just immense. Memories fade, any potential physical evidence is long gone or degraded.
Yeah.
People involved move or pass away, like the husband.
We know the police have revisited it periodically, right?
Right.
And they did bank DNA from the daughter's siblings, which was smart.
Essential, yeah. But one officer is quoted calling it a century cold case. That tells you how difficult they view it.
It makes you wonder about those early stages. Were there limitations back then? Maybe incomplete video collection from all possible exits, or maybe delays in escalating it from just a standard missing person report. Things that could have really hampered later efforts. So there you have it, the Changhua mother-daughter case. It just remains one of Taiwan's most deeply unsettling mysteries, doesn't it? Defined by that incredibly strange sequence in the elevator and the absolute, seemingly impossible vanishing act that followed.
It really continues to capture attention, I think, because it taps into something really primal in us. That fear of the unexplained, the human need for closure, for a narrative that makes sense. How can two people, a mother and her child, just dematerialize?
And what can we possibly take away from a case like this? From digging through all these details? For me, it's a stark reminder that even now, in our modern world saturated with technology, cameras seemingly everywhere, some mysteries just persist. Some gaps remain stubbornly open.
Yeah, it really highlights that our systems, whether we're talking about physical surveillance networks or social support for victims of abuse, or even just investigative procedures for really complex disappearances, they aren't perfect. There are limitations. There are blind spots, both technical and maybe societal too, that can have these profound, lasting consequences.
The case kind of stands as this powerful symbol, doesn't it? A reminder that sometimes, despite all our efforts to map the world, monitor it, understand it, some doors just stay locked. Some paths lead into absolute darkness. And some mysteries, however frustrating it is, might just stay that way forever, challenging our basic assumption that everything eventually can and will be explained.
It definitely challenges our sense of control and knowledge in a world we like to think we understand, a truly baffling case.